If you're here, wave. We're just getting started here. Oh, look, we are live. I love that when things work. I'm going to close some things down here. Yay. All right, everybody. This is Anna. I'm so excited to introduce you. We're going to have a great conversation today because there are so many people with dreams in their heart in life. There's so many things that get in the way. Our own beliefs, planned dreams that get kiboshed, surprises, setbacks. And so we're going to talk about some of that. So for those of you who don't know Anna, if you've never met her before, I met Anna in the online space quite a few years ago and just followed your journey along. And if you've read my book, Dare to Decide, then you will find out in chapter 26, I talk about Anna's the beginning part of this journey. So I'll recap it a little bit and then we'll get into some of the fun stuff, just in case you haven't read it. So you were in your therapy job, Anna, you were mom of one little guy, and you loved your job, actually. It was really fulfilling, but like many of us, there's a piece of us that it's just a little restless piece. And so you tried out coaching, life coaching, business coaching, another one of those, decisions, got to choose one, landed on, I'm going to go with business coaching. And then you were pregnant with your daughter and realized, all right, I can just focus on two big things well. And I'd rather do things really well than spread myself too thin. And so that was the story we told in Dare to Decide, just this like angst of choosing, leaving behind, basically choosing between two good things. Obviously, your daughter was one of them, being mom, the two littles. So it was like therapy job, which is stability and it's familiar, you know what it's like, or this new exploring business coaching, which in a sense, the sky is the limit, which can be like intimidating, scary, unknown. The sky could be limit positive or not. You're the eternal optimist, radical optimist. And so you think all the good things, but it's still scary. You're making your own way. There's not someone that sets up the structure for you. You're designing your own dream, so to speak. And so I just want to talk about that because I know a lot of the people that I'm connected with, that's the spot that they're in. They're either dreaming. And so, by the way, if you are watching, let us know. I've got my Earl Grey tea here. If you are drinking.
I should have my tea. I don't have my tea.
You didn't bring your green tea. That's okay. I actually remember it's probably cold now. Oh, that's a classic. Cold tea. But let us know you're watching. If you're watching the replay, here, hashtag replay, wave, let us know you're here. We love to know we're not talking to ourselves, although we enjoy doing that too. So picking up your story, Anna, tell us okay, so you make the choice, you come back, say from mat leave, you have your baby girl and you're going to venture in. Tell us, what were some of the mindsets you had to, way back in that journey that you had to face, and what did you do to start basically grappling with them so that you could move forward with your dream?
Yeah, I love that question so much. And by the way, if you don't have Emily's book, go grab it. It's excellent. And the beauty is, like she shared, like there's my story, but there's also so many stories. And what I love most about it is that I think it normalizes the difficulty of decision, right? So often we beat ourselves up for like, this should be easier. I should figure this out on my own, right? But it isn't easy. I would say that season of my business where I was having to decide to quit my job that I loved, right, was really the hardest season of my business. I mean, there's challenges in every chapter, but I would say like that ambiguous, deciding to go all in and staying out, like that is definitely the hardest part. So whether you like hire a coach like Emily around deciding, it's just remembering that it does take a lot of mindset work. To answer your question on like which mindset, I would say like one of the mindsets that served me best in the middle of the decision was two. One was one that my coach shared with me, Lacey. She shared with me, Anna, stop trying to make the perfect decision, because every decision is going to have pros and cons, right? And so instead of making the perfect decision, try making the best decision. Like everyone's going to have a downside. And that was really easy for me. The other mindset was just believing that I was going to be successful. Like you said, I was like going after, was already kind of successful in my day job. And so the fact that I was like, wanting more, I felt guilty about, but just knowing that like, okay, maybe it's going to take a few months, maybe I'm going to make a lot of mistakes on the way, but ultimately I'm going to achieve massive success in my business. Like my success is inevitable was like definitely the biggest starting belief that really helped me.
Yeah. Now, did you know what success meant,
Mm.
or did you have to come to a point where you defined it versus what
Yeah.
someone else was?
Yeah. Such a good question. I think for me, it meant, this doesn't have to be for all business owners, but I knew for me, like I wanted to sell out my one-on-one practice and I wanted my spots sold out for when I returned from my maternity leave. Like that felt like my barometer. It was what I was going for.
And that's so important because we have this vague idea of what success looks like,
Yeah.
but that could be different for everybody because like you said, everybody's story is different. What your dream is different. And now kind of going back to that, there's a lot of hype or buzzwords about dream big, and it's this pressure that it's like go big or don't go at all, or
Yeah.
right. Did you know that, like, did you envision where you are now way back a few years ago?
Oh, it's such a no, I definitely did not. I definitely did not. It's probably like for the better that we don't know how
Yeah.
beautiful things are going to get. Cause I think we
Yeah.
like, even though we think we have a lot of fears, I think what often most holds us back is like our ability to, like, we need to increase our capacity for happiness, right? For life to be like even better than we thought it could be, for us to be even more successful than we thought we could be, right? So I think like I definitely, no, I didn't know where it was going to go.
Yeah. And that's comforting because
Yeah.
then you're focused on, well, success looks like this. Short term, it's measurable in a sense. This is what I'm aiming for. And that's not thinking huge, big, grand things and getting overwhelmed. It's just, no, this is what success looks like for the next
Yeah.
6 months or 4 months. Yeah. So tell me more. Um, Actually, I'd love to know. So we talked about the just the angst of decision, and we think it
Yeah.
should be harder. It is. And so you had those first decisions that you had to make. Were there decisions or mindsets that you, once you mastered them at the beginning and you grappled with them, did it become easier to make decisions down the road, or what became more familiar the more,
Yeah.
because here's what I'm talking this week with the book club or some of my clients. The decisions don't go away. Like the decision, oh, I'm going to go into business coaching, there, I made my decisions, they don't go away. Really, it just means you start a path of a whole pile of uncomfortable decisions, uncertainty. You don't know how
Yeah.
things are going to go, and you're just going to make one after the other.
Yeah.
And so were there, making in that first area, were there beliefs that actually helped you make it easier? Were there things that are just as hard later on?
Yeah. I love what you said. Like, I totally agree that like, like one of the best things about a business is it makes you really good about making decisions. Right. And I think something I just settled to is realizing like, oh, the faster I make decisions, the faster I grow. Right. And so since I'm making a lot of decisions, like way more than I used to, not all of the, like, I don't have 100% success rate of like the decisions I'm making being good decisions. Right. But knowing that instead of like feeling like I have to make the perfect decision every time, knowing that like, hey, I'm going to make some wrong decisions, but guess what? When I make a wrong decision, I am someone of integrity. And so I know how to fix it with another decision, right? Like if I make a mistake and it affects one of my clients, I'm going to be the first one to talk to them about it, right?
Mhm.
And so instead of like giving yourself, priding yourself in the ability to make perfect decisions, instead pride yourself as someone that always knows how to make it right, right? Always knows how to, whatever information you have, like do the very best, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about so many decisions that we have to make. Um, One of the other things my book talks about that is kind of on that theme is clearing some of the decision fatigue.
Yes.
So what are the things you do to make decisions simpler or no brainer so that when there are the hard decisions, you've just made an easier path for
Yeah.
yourself?
One of the big things I did in my business was, I would say like about year 2, 3, I had like 7 or 8 different contractors working for me. And I decided to let go of almost all of them and instead have 1 or 2 main people to do everything for me at like a lot more hours.
Mhm.
And part of my decision to do this was I realized that like the more people I have on my team, though that they were all amazing, right? It was more people for me to manage, more decisions
Mhm.
to make, right? And so I think sometimes just by simplifying in our life, whatever that looks like in our business, that takes a lot of the decision making out, is simplifying. And then the second thing is well, there's a lot of things, but like repeating things, right? Like
Yeah.
lately I've been like I'm a single mama, so like I'm an outsourcing queen. And so like right now I have like a laundry service that does my laundry for me. I have a meal service that does meal prep for me.
Mhm.
And so I think like simplifying and then outsourcing and doing all the mindset work that it takes to not feel bad about someone else doing something for you that you could do is like the biggest game changer in like my ability to be a happy, present mama and coach.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even a few years ago, it was deciding to have a nanny, which is
Yes.
when you have your little ones and they're not ventured, like any first embarking your child away from your your clutches, basically, it's a hard decision. And so I remember that was a big one for you, but
Ugh,
realizing,
awful. Awful.
yeah,
I like cried. I remember like the first time I sent my son, because like I was really able to like multitask my coaching with my son being home, right? And then my daughter came along and I was kind
mhm,
of hobbling along. But I remember I put my son in preschool for like 10 hours a week the first time when he
yeah.
was like 4 or 3.5. And I just cried and cried and cried. And I'm like, is there something wrong with me? But then I'm putting my son in preschool for 3 days a week, like it was a huge mindset thing.
Oh man. Yeah, it just because the decision are made or where you go doesn't mean doesn't come with all the emotions or the
Yes.
or working through the stuff.
It can be the right
So
decision, but it can still be hard, right?
yeah, it doesn't mean that everything just, there's rain X on you and everything just falls right off. So what you've had to do is find systems and methods to work through the emotions so that you don't get stuck in that spot, but you do move forward. And I think that's what is so easily underestimated. I remember for so many years, the feeling all of the things, it's how we interpret them. And I would interpret them, well, there must be something wrong with me, or I need to give this all of my focus and attention because until it goes away and then go free and clear. But that's not how we move forward in our dream.
Yeah, it's
And
so
so,
true.
yeah. So, what are some of those things that have helped you just work through your mindset and so that you can move through?
Well, I think what you said is so key, right? It's just remembering that, like, sometimes, even though, like, when we're doing something new or brave or pushing, like, our brain can tell us there's something wrong, there's something wrong. But
Mhm.
sometimes all that's wrong is that we have to manage our own discomfort,
Yeah.
right? And that can be the hardest thing because for me, I'm a doer. So I'm like, oh, I can fix it, right? But
Yeah.
a lot of times, the only thing to manage is our mindset. And so, one of my favorite tools to do this with is just about every day, I do a daily 10-minute check in. I ask myself 6 questions. And that's a way for me to make sure that I'm processing and not just taking like haphazard action to make myself more comfortable.
I love what you said there. The doer, take action. For the longest time, I would tend to be the person who didn't take action until I was taking action. And then I realized there's this momentum where you can be so busy taking action to fix it, you forget to check in with yourself. And I forget when or where you said it, but it stuck with me. That moment when you think you're fine and someone asks you, how are you doing? You just break down crying and you're like, where did this all come from? And I'm like, oh, like we can do something about that. Like I can actually and I'm like, oh, this is why Anna does her check-ins, because you face that realizing, yeah, I can't really tie if, if you want a client or just, you never know where that's going to happen. And really it's taking care of your soul, yourself, your mind, and your emotions. And so just tuning in with, how am I feeling today? What am I grappling with? Goes so far than just plowing through and willpowering your life, acting, fixing your way through all of the things. It catches up with you. And it would catch up with me. If it's not my emotions, it'll catch up with my body, and it'll shut down saying,
Yes.
hello, and if you're not going to pay attention to me, I will make you. And so everybody's body system, how you process life is different. And so that is so key to be able to just acknowledge that and work through that. Was there anything else that stands out that is really helpful in making the decisions that kept moving you forward instead of staying stuck, or leveraging what you had now to keep moving forward?
I would say definitely like hiring support was like one of the biggest things, right? And so whether you're hiring someone like Emily, right, or someone that you trust and know, I think we make ourselves wrong for needing support, right? Like, oh, I should be able to figure this out on my own, or oh, I watch one of Emily's live streams so I can just apply it on my own, right? And while it's good to like take action and like have that personal responsibility, I think it's also okay to have outside accountability, right? And that doesn't mean anything about our work ethic or about
Mm.
our drive. It's normal to need support, to need feedback. And so I would just encourage you to consider that. Like if you're in a place where you're stuck on a decision, don't wait till you've made the decision to hire support. Like it's okay to hire support for that decision, for that hard moment, right?
Yeah. How much time, if you look back, how much time and energy has it taken you to figure things out on your own versus when you realize you called the support? And for anyone watching,
Mhm.
support could mean a coach, it could mean an assistant, it could mean
Yeah.
laundry service, it could
Yeah.
mean meal service. Like, support is a very broad term. And and really the wisdom is looking at, well, where would I most easily create space to do this? And that's different for everybody in every situation and every stage of your dream. um I forgot what I just asked you, but
You're fine. Like like in my life, how do I feel like coaching has or like support
yeah,
has, or when
yeah,
I haven't had. See, I've never not had support. And I feel like that's why I've grown so much
yes,
so
yeah.
fast in 5 years is I never really tried to do it on my own. Like I hired a coach like month 2. I hired an assistant like a few months in.
Mhm.
I'm like the most resourced and supported woman I know, but like that didn't happen on accident. Like I pay for it,
Yeah,
right? And so I think being willing to invest in that, and I really don't go without support because I know that I'm not going to get anywhere without that.
absolutely. That's great. And so there must have been a mindset that you had, because I know money mindset and resource, there is the mindset of, well, I should be able to figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
Our expectation that we put on ourselves. And you talked about that. We're just talking about the perspective of investing, leveraging what you
Yeah.
have to multiply, basically. What was your perspective in just having to invest and pay for that? What made that
I
worthwhile? What vision did you have that said, this is worth it? I can do this.
I just did it like a tiny bit at a time, right? So my
Mhm.
first coach, I just hired her for 1 hour. Right? I just bought like one of her one sessions just to see, right?
Mhm.
For my first VA, I think I literally hired her for 1 hour a week. So I think at the time I had paid her like $25. So what is that for a whole month? Like $125 for the month for VA support. So I think people like see these things and they think investing has to be crazy amounts of money. And now I do invest a lot of money, but I just think like do it at a rate that like honor your intuition, right? Like honor what feels best to you. And so maybe it is just hiring a coach for 1 hour or like go at the rate that feels good to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of as we start wrapping this up a little bit, what are some of the things you let go of? We talk about gain or change. What are some of the things you let go of on your journey in order to move to a next phase in your business and your calling?
Oh my gosh, I could answer that like 1,000 ways. I think at number one, like I had to let go of like my pride, right? I was like moving from mental health and like a very like certified field to like a very like coaching. And so I had to let go of my ego. Like, what would my peers think about me going from
Right.
therapy to coaching? You know, I really wasn't like a huge social media person. Like, so showing my face a lot on social, like,
Mhm.
I just had to be like, you know what? Whatever, right? Like swear word it. Like we're just going to do it. Like this is just going to happen. And so um that, but then just also on a practical level, like I had to let go of my job, right? Like and
Mhm.
you just have to let go of all the things.
Yeah. And it's a key in order to move forward. There's a deciding point means you have to release something in order to move forward. And sometimes I picture the trapeze artist,
Yes.
where you've, in order to catch the next ring, you have to let go of the other one. And there's this middle air suspending. And that's what it can feel like. It might not be, you might have the structure in place, but to let going feeling can
Yes.
feel just unnerving to be
Horrible.
in
It's
that
just
unfamiliar
horrible.
space. Yeah. Yeah.
What's on the other side is great, but like the decision feels awful. Usually
Yeah.
right after the decision, it still feels awful. But then eventually you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yes. I know there's a lot of people that wait for peace as the confirmation of
Oh
their
my gosh,
decision.
never. No,
And
there's no
that's
peace.
not always the case. Like there can be a level of peace, but the
Yeah.
rest of your soul can be in torment. It's kind of like the deep waters. Maybe you can feel peace really deep inside, but the rest's just like stormy and tumultuous and not fun. Not fun.
No, no, no,
And
no, 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 no.
that brings us all the way back to the point of being able to have a way to manage your discomfort, because it's
Yeah.
an uncomfortable journey to cast the vision for your own dream, to believe in it before anyone else does, to
Yes.
invite people into it because you believe in it enough, and then keep dreaming forward. It's a challenge, and it's not necessarily something we're taught. But if it's not something that comes naturally, it can be something you learn just by being around people who think that way, who are farther ahead, who just cheer you on no matter what. So
Yeah.
yeah, so good. All right. Any last minute tips if someone is just on the brink of deciding this is my dream, I'm done surviving, I'm going all in. What would your last words that you would have to say to them?
Oh man, I would say, like it's easier. Yeah, like this is the hardest part. Like it gets easier, is what I would say.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Well, I know you have so many resources out there for people who, especially women who are ready to get visible online with their business, with their entrepreneurial idea. Tell us where we can find more resources to support them in their journey along the way.
Yeah. So the best place is my podcast, the Heart Centered Entrepreneur Podcast. I produce weekly episodes. And then also my Facebook group, you can find at heartcenteredcommunity.com are the two best ways.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being with us, Anna. It was so good to have you.
Thank you, Emily.